there, welcome back to my channel. I hope you are doing well, and welcome back to the horror show that is Diddy's Trial Week 3 Part 4 Wrap Up. I don't know why the R didn't come out. Wrap Up. Look, I have been hitting all of these stories back to back, so please forgive me. But yeah, so we're doing the weekly review, wrap up, if you will, of the testimony, antics inside and outside of the courtroom, because there was some on the outside as well. We will be covering that in part 5. So definitely want to make sure that you hit that notification bell on so that you don't miss these parts. Now, as I share, we're going to be covering part 4 here, but part 1, 2, and 3 have already hit the platform. So if you hadn't had an opportunity to take a look at those videos, I hope that you will take some time to do that, so that way you're all caught up with the things that took place in week 3. Now, in part 4, we are going to be covering a little bit more of a detailed testimony as regards to Mia, one of the ex-assistants, which actually she's going under the pseudonym Mia for the trial. It's very telling of the things that she shared and her 8-year tumultuous relationship, which was filled with a lot of things, to include abuse that she alleges that came by way of Diddy. She also corroborates information in regards to some of the testimony that's been given by other individuals, to include Cassie, and as well as just giving her own experience and things that she had dealt with as well. Now, we are going into this particular area that's going to touch on maybe some of those things from a different perspective, or more detailed perspective, as well as some other instances that have not yet been covered in any of the parts for this week. We'll be covering them here in this section. So for sure, trigger warning, as you already know in the beginning. I'd like to make sure I place that there, because there is very much some troubling information and disturbing testimony that is provided week to week with this situation, as we know that Diddy is definitely up against an uphill battle with these charges and allegations, and it's going to be interesting to see how this all works out in the end for him. As we all know, as we wrapped up week 3, we're going to be starting into week 4 tomorrow, so it'll be new witnesses, new testimony, new areas of discovery of more of this really tainted world that Diddy lived in, and in a lot of ways have perpetuated for himself. So definitely want you to take a look at all those sharings from this week, and if you haven't had opportunity to catch up on even the previous 2 weeks, feel free to do that as well, because they're all on the platform too. So with that, go ahead and sit back and relax. There's going to be quite a bit to cover in this particular sharing. So definitely be thinking your thoughts, and, leave them respectfully down in the comment section. I would love to know what you're thinking, how you're feeling. And, from day to day, from week to week, we are hearing different aspects of things that we may have been familiar with, and some things we most certainly were not familiar with. And sometimes it really does put a thought in a lot of us as to where we feel we are at that place in time of hearing the testimonial information provided. So, some may be changing minds, some may be more, in a headstance in what they've already believed, and some are just waiting for, the end. So with that, let's go ahead and take a look at more of the ex-assistant Mia and her detailed testimony aspects that was brought into court this past week. All right, so as I do not have off the top of my head or written down as a note to help me out what the details of this particular sharing is coming from as far as a source, but I will, as always, have them down in the description area below, so make sure you take a look down there, because I have a lot of information in the description area as well of these videos too, so you're not missing out on things that I may have and want to share with you in that way. Make sure that you're checking it out there. But the source for this information is coming from, where this article sharing is coming from, will be provided again in the description area below. So let's go ahead and get into it. And yeah, it shares Diddy trial recap. Well, ex-assistant Mia was young and manipulated, says mogul had caused PTSD. Now, of course, this story contains graphic descriptions that some readers may find disturbing. So as I share in my trigger warning, really please do listen and watch with care. Now, a former member of Sean Diddy Combs' inner circle returned to the courtroom May 30th to offer more details of the hip-hop mogul's alleged pattern of sexual and physical abuse during his criminal trial. Having a harrowing day of testimony from Combs' ex-assistant, a woman going by the pseudonym pseudonym Mia, prosecutors returned to continue building their case against the Grammy-winning rapper in his sweeping federal crimes case. Now, during her second day of testimony, Mia painted a picture of long-term emotional and professional manipulation. She described a dynamic where Combs' alleged threats were used to maintain control, including using an unreleased ABC series as leverage and cause lasting trauma. Mia's testimony follows similar allegations from Deontay Nash, a friend and stylist of Ventura Fine, who claimed Combs tried to control all aspects of Cassie's life during their decades-long relationship. Now, Combs, 55, of course, as we know, was arrested in September 2024 and charged with trafficking, racketeering, and transportation to engage in, well, activities that typically would happen in the night, but in this case, every day, all day, it looks like, where it is considered illegal and start with the letter P. And he has, of course, pleaded not guilty. Now, Diddy's lawyers, federal prosecutors disagree about Happy Birthday video. Let's get into it. In court, there was a 40-minute disagreement about showing a video of Mia singing Happy Birthday to Combs, which the defense submitted during the lunch break at 1:07 p.m. Combs' attorney, Brian Steele, said it was prohibitive to show her demeanor and energy, and that it shows a night and day difference with how she was presented during direct examination. Now, Combs' lead defense attorney, Mark Affilio, said that the jury might conclude that her effect on the stand is an act, noting that the video confirms that her testimony is false. The defense said they just found the video on Thursday, May 29th, and people emailed it to them as well. But Judge Aron watched the video, but precluded it as evidence and said the relevance is minimal. Diddy's lawyers are doing everything they possibly can, right? And I guess it's what they're paid for. Now, Diddy's lawyer, ex-assistant Spar, overclaims, what if you're not a victim? Oh, here we go. One of the trial's moments, most contentious moments, that is, took place on Friday. Steele asked, isn't it true that Mr. Combs never had forcible sexual misconduct with you? Mia said firmly, I have not lied to anyone at all. Steele pushed back, saying, isn't it true that it never happened as many times as you told this jury? Mia replied, everything I've said in this courtroom is true. Steele doubled down. What if you're not a victim of sexual assault? Then what? Prosecutors immediately objected, and the judge sustained it. Now, Diddy, ex-assistant Mia, says she's not sure if she's a weak person. Now, during her testimony, Mia said everyone around Combs upheld his behavior and punishment toward me. She said it was an abusive relationship, a cycle of violence, and that she was always searching for approval and confused what I had done wrong, she testified. I don't know how to explain it. I was young and manipulated, and there were no streaming documentaries, and no one was standing up, Mia said. Steele then asked, why did you need someone else saying that it was wrong when Mr. Combs made you feel, according to your testimony, that he would unalive you? Mia responded, my logic brain and my trauma brain. My trauma brain wins all the time. Mia called herself a rule follower and a people pleaser. You make excuses for people. I tend to take a lot more than normal people, she said. Steele then asked Mia, you're not a weak person, are you? To which she responded, I'm not sure. Oh, that's devastating. Now, defense attorneys criticized Diddy assistant's past support of Sean Combs. Steele continued to go through social media posts of Mia supporting Combs through the years. The court saw a scrapbook Mia made for Combs for his 45th birthday, which included clippings of magazine articles about Combs from 1991 to 1999. Now, Mia had wrote a sweet message in the scrapbook about reaching new heights and reminding Combs to take in his accomplishments. She wanted to remind him of when this world made your eyes light up. Mia wrote in the scrapbook. On the stand, Mia said he had come to her depressed and recalled Combs saying, I used to look at the world the way you did. What's left if I've done everything? He felt sad to me, Mia testified, and she wanted to remind him that his success and life weren't meaningless. Steele asked, did you ever tell him you made my life feel meaningless too? Mia said no, and that she was an empathetic nature. Steele asked how it's even possible for Mia to be around a man who traumatized her and Cassie so much. It's called psychological abuse, Mia said. Now, Diddy lawyer Brian Steele tries to undermine Mia's testimony, Still disclosed that Mia has met with prosecutors or investigators 27 times in preparation for her trial testimony. She responded that she didn't remember exactly how many times it was, but that it was a lot. She also told prosecutors that she couldn't remember all the times that Combs had sexually assaulted her. How do you have a good experience with a man who terrorized you? Steele asked. It's easy, Mia said, because the dynamics would shift. And in often abuse situations do. Now, Mia says relationship with Combs was fraught, and on the stand, Mia said she was in fear of upsetting Combs, but there were good moments where he treated her like a best friend. Asked her how she could be best friends with someone who allegedly did all of these things to her, she quit back, I guess we can ask my therapist. She added that Combs was vulnerable with her and that she felt responsible for him. A lot of the markings of an individual who would explain or describe someone who is of an abusive, nature, for sure. Asked how she could forget Combs slamming Ventura Fine into the bed frame, which the former assistant had testified to May 29th, Mia responded, you don't forget that. You get punished for bringing it up again. Mia recalls Diddy's comedy pursuit as Brian still criticizes her post. Still continued to pull up social media posts, including one of Mia wishing Combs' son Justin Combs a happy birthday and another congratulating Combs on a Ciroc event in Times Square using the hashtag family. In these postings, do you ever say anything about Mr. Combs violating you? Still asked, with Mia responding, never. Still pulled up another post from 2014 captioned, Legends Recognizing Legends, of Combs giving an award to Jimmy Iovine. Still asked, one of the legends is a person who has traumatized you physically, emotionally, and financially. More of Mia's posts were mentioned, including from the Chris Gethard show and another from Funny or Die. Mia explained that Puff wanted to break into the comedy world and that it was great for Puff to have that comedic exposure. She clarified that the posts were her promoting work. Once again, you post a picture on social media for the person who ruined your life, Still asked. And my boss, yes, Mia said. Diddy, ex-assistant Mia, claimed she had to beg to go to her grandma's funeral. Mia defended her post, saying, of course I want to highlight the highs. I don't think people wrote about the bad stuff on Instagram back then, she added. It was a very confusing cycle of ups and downs and violence. You were in fear of Sean Combs every day. Is that true? Still asked. Was Mia clarifying she wasn't on the days when Combs called her his best friend. Still asked why she never told her family or friends about all the alleged assaults. And Mia said she didn't get to talk to her family, her friends regularly. I had to get permission to leave or do things. I had to beg to go to my grandma's funeral, Mia said. Still brought up again that Mia had said she loved Combs with all her heart. That's how I write to people in my life, Mia said. Still asked, including the person you're terrified of? Mia responded, especially the person I'm terrified of. Ooh, definitely a crash course on how it can be to go through, and a very well given example of what someone can experience and what would be an alleged abusive situation. I think in a lot of ways, this country has a lot to learn and to grapple with the different elements of abuse. And that could be a controversial statement, but it doesn't really matter to me at the point that there's a lot of people who are not as, well, say, versed on what abuse is and what it looks like. And sometimes thinking deal with things or see things and you expect that that's supposed to be okay. And you go through life thinking that it's okay, it doesn't make it okay. I digress. Combs' lawyer, Brian Steele, pressed Mia on loving social media posts. During cross-examination, Steele showed me a number of old social media posts. One was a social media post for Combs' 45th birthday, where she wrote, "Happy birthday, Puff Daddy. Thank you for being the good kind of crazy," adding that she loved him with all her heart. Steele remarked that this was 5 years after Combs first allegedly sexually assaulted her. You have Sean Combs shirtless in two of the pictures in the collage of photos of Mia and Combs together, he said. At this point, you have taken in so much trauma for him. When the highs were high and the goods were good, you tried so hard to stay in that, Mia said. Still pressed her multiple times, saying, haven't you said you've been sexually assaulted so many times that you can't even remember? Mia responded, I don't remember phrasing it that way. And also, too, to the point, people do deal and respond in abusive situations differently. Not everybody is a monolith for how to deal with abusive situations. It also can depend on not only the abuse, the type of abuse, where it's coming from, and how much control that individual may have over your life, your family, your friends, your finances, your security, whatever the case may be. There is ebbs and flows of situations and different perspectives and different ways that people may act and perform and deal with when it comes to abuse. All of it, for a lot of times that you see, that maybe a similar aspect is that they're trying to survive the situation or whatever that may be. Now, Mia had received a $4,000 settlement from Diddy due to alleged violence. Now, in more emotional testimony on May 30th, Mia said that she hired an employment lawyer to try to get a settlement from Combs after her exit and asked for $10 million. Ultimately, she only received $400,000, half of which was taken by the lawyers. She said she never said anything about the sexual assaults in those transactions, even though she mentioned some of Combs' violence. She told the court that she would have taken her own sexual assault allegations aimed at Combs to her grave. Now, Diddy, ex-assistant, suggests that D-Rock intimidated her after Cassie's 2023 lawsuit. So, wow, still continuing on, even as a year ago. Now, during the fall of 2016, Mia was told that Combs' Revolt Films company, which she helped lead, was about to be shut down because the producer no longer wants to be involved in the film business. She said she was left completely traumatized and depressed. Now, despite departing Combs' company in 2017, Mia continued to hear from Combs and Damian D-Rock Butler, his associate and security guard. After Ventura Fine filed her civil lawsuit in November 2023, Mia said that D-Rock made numerous attempts to call her and that she received texts from both him and Combs. She said she felt threatened and like they were trying to get to her to agree not to say anything. He sounded nervous and was talking in circles, she said, of D-Rock on one of the few calls she answered. When Combs called her, she felt so traumatized that she said she threw her phone and ran outside. Ultimately, she never did speak to Combs, but prosecutors introduced it to evidence, an email from Combs in which he said, "You were my right hand for years," and that he just wanted to talk to her for 10 minutes to refresh his memory about who was around him at the time and what had happened. "I wanted nothing to do with him. He was the person I was traumatized by, and he was coming back," she said. And see, that's another thing too, after she got to the point where she was able to exit the situation, now she's going through, basically the dumping of and realization at that point. And who wants to jump back into that situation after you've been able to exit yourself out of? So again, and she has seen a therapist, so I'm sure a lot has been unpacked over the years. Now, Diddy's ex-assistant Mia describes trying to escape Mogul's alleged control tactics. Now, while detailing Combs' alleged control tactics, Mia said she was suspended without pay several times, typically because she was on the receiving end of being screamed at on behalf of the Bad Boy Records founder. Now, Mia said that on one occasion she was suspended because Combs didn't like the workout clothes that she had laid out for him. Another time, the prosecutor showed an email from Mia to D-Rock, who she said was like a big brother, in which she described Combs. "He's so psycho, he's so mean." He also described an incident on a yacht that Combs had chartered in the St. Barts in 2010. When he asked her to count money in a safe, she said that security usually did that and she wasn't good at it, but she was trying to do a good job. And when Combs suddenly started screaming at her that she was counting too slow. He got really irate with me, Mia said. She added that Combs told her to get out of here despite being on the boat. "You better learn to walk on water like Jesus did," she claimed Combs said, cursing at her. Imagine that, saying Jesus' name and cursing at the same time. I don't know how much more sacrilegious you can get in a moment. Now, when she went up to the third floor of the yacht and ultimately tried to get off the boat, she said the crew tried to return her to shore but didn't, because they received a phone call ordering her to be brought back on Combs' orders. "I just wanted to run and hide and figure out a way out of St. Bart's to get away from him," she said. Instead, she said Combs ordered her to accompany him on a jet to Las Vegas because he had a sudden change of plans, which she said traumatized her even further. Mia testified that she was suspended for that incident because she had acted insubordinately. Mia says Combs would threaten to take away unreleased ABC series loosely based on her life. Now, early in her testimony, May 30th, Mia recalled how she had finally realized a lifelong dream and was involved in film production, including pitching a show to ABC that was loosely based on her role as a personal assistant working for a major celebrity like Combs. She said Combs would constantly threaten to fire her or suspend her, and even threatened to take away the opportunity the ABC show provided. Ultimately, she said nothing ever came of the show. Now, Mia's testimony, ex-assistant, claims music mogul gave her a complex severe PTSD. Now, Mia discussed her work for Combs as part of his entourage, who accompanied him on trips around the world. In court, she said the embattled mogul emotionally abused her to the point that now she suffers from complex severe PTSD. Due to her post-traumatic stress disorder diagnosis, Mia said she can't get or keep a job because she is triggered by the most minor things, like somebody asking her where she is. I would have to leave work because I would be triggered by very normal situations with an overwhelming fear of being in trouble, the witness told the court. She added that all of these feelings of getting in trouble coming flooding back. When Mia was asked who triggered those feelings in her, she answered Puff, referring to Combs by his former moniker. Now, who is Mia in Diddy trial? Well, former assistant alleges sexual assault at his 40th birthday party. Now, Mia, who worked for Combs from 2009 to 2017, testified on May 29th that he sexually assaulted her on more than one occasion. The former assistant alleged that the first time Combs assaulted her was at the Plaza Hotel in New York City when they were celebrating his 40th birthday in 2009. Now, Mia recalled having two shots that were affecting her much more than alcohol typically impacted her memory and balance. She said Combs approached her in a penthouse suite and sexually assaulted her, and she woke up sitting in a chair in the morning. In later years, Combs alleged assaulting her several additional times, including at his Los Angeles home and on a private plane. Now, Mia testifies on a Prince party incident with Diddy and Cassie. Now, prosecutors asked Mia on May 29th about a party at Prince's house, the purple one, in 2011 or 2012. And at the time, Mia and Cassie were staying at a hotel without Combs, but the two had decided to sneak out to the intimate gathering at the late musician's home. Although the women reportedly attempted an abrupt exit from the party when they saw Combs arrive, Mia testified that Combs caught up with them and attacked Ventura Fine, with Prince's security swiftly intervening. The next day, Mia said she was told Combs was suspending her without pay because she was being insubordinate. Now, Mia recalls violent Diddy attacks on Cassie. Mia choked up while taking the stand on May 29th, as she described an alleged incident during which she was afraid that Combs would unalive Ventura Fine. She said she was with Cassie and Nash at the singer's Los Angeles apartment, helping her pack for a trip. They heard banging on the door, and a very irate Combs let himself in with a key and began screaming at Ventura Fine, later attacking Cassie and throwing her to the ground. Mia claimed that working for Combs also entailed caring for Ventura Fine's injuries, which including bringing her whatever she needed, such as an arnica gel to help heal her bruises. When the wounds were too obvious to cover up, Ventura Fine was forced to stay at hotels, the woman explained. Now, what are the charges against Diddy? Well, Combs is facing federal crimes and trafficking charges in a sprawling lawsuit that has eroded his status as a power player and kingmaker in the entertainment industry. He was arrested in September 24 and later charged with racketeering, trafficking, and transportation to engage in the P. The rapper has pleaded not guilty to all 5 counts against him. What is racketeering, you may ask? Now, this is a really good point to make some clarification on this for several people who may still have conversations associated with it or misunderstandings or just want to know more. It says here that racketeering is the participation in an illegal scheme under the Racketeering Influence and Corrupt Organization Statute, or RICO, that we most time hear it as a way for the U.S. government to prosecute organizations that contribute to criminal activity. Now, using RICO law, which is typically aimed at targeting multi-person criminal organizations, prosecutors allege that Combs coerced victims, some of whom they say were workers, through intimidation and narcotics to participate in freak-offs, sometimes days-long, as performances that federal prosecutors allege they have video of. Because, of course, if you're using resources and finances and sources that are associated with the business of hand for these types of acts, therein lies RICO. Warning is an example of that, right? Being able to use those funds to actually fund, which then kind of muddies the water there for it to be a situation in which it's a business fueling another business, so to speak, right? Just kind of loosely sharing that. Of course, the sharing does want to remind all of us that if you are a survivor of SA, RAINN, RAINN, offers support through National Assault Hotline at 800-656-HOPE. HOPE is 4673 at hotline.rainn.org, and in Espanol, which is rainn.org/ES. If you or someone you know is a victim of domestic violence, call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233 or text START, START, to 88788. Of course, I will have that information provided down in the description area below as well. So as we have it there, a lot of details provided from Mia and her experiences of what she endured, what she alleges she endured, and what she's also seen, witnessed, and has spent the better part probably of since 2017 trying to overcome to some degree. As she shared, she feels that their experiences with the mogul, being P. Diddy, allegedly has now put her in a position of increased heightened PTSD, and which makes it her able to work in any kind of setting, is understanding that the things that she's alleging that traumatizes her, basically just being nitpicked every second of the day, kind of feeling that, of course, even someone asking where somebody is, you could only imagine how that could trigger, either being yelled at as far as her, being called, where is she at, and that kind of thing, and always knowing that whatever she was asked for, it always felt like something was going to happen, and obviously in what she's alleged a lot of times it did. There's also the repeated SA information that she shared, and that has happened to her, and the claims of R-ing of her, and those really sad occurrences and instances that took place, and her having to come to terms in dealing with that, and sharing and expressing, what she has endured in the sense of, dealing with, obviously seeking therapy and, getting through those times, because, anything that she can deal with at this point in time can trigger any moment of what she endured for quite a bit of time, 2009 to 2017, so roughly 8 years there. So a lot of time to be enduring that type of behavior, and also being in a position of feeling maybe trapped in your situation, really having nowhere to turn, maybe not feeling that you had law enforcement you can go to, maybe not knowing who that you could trust, because there was always a permanence of feeling that there was more individuals that would be there, at least if not in watching and seeing and witnessing things and not doing anything, would also be more abreast and aware of things, and maybe would, potentially push things under the rug. That too can add to the enterprise situation that can, associate with RICO. So we'll see how all this pans out to where it does make the connection for the jurors as well, with the definition given, as well as how they can show the example over these weeks, that being the prosecution, of how RICO plays into that part. Definitely, we know we have DV there. We definitely have the allegations of SA and Rs from multiple individuals that have spoken about these things and have shared even their own personal allegations associated with Diddy as well. And so, it will be really interesting to see how this all shapes up at the end of this whole entire debacle that is Diddy. And of course, all things are definitely alleged, but we just want to sit back and see how this all pans out. And, time goes by so fast, so it will be here before you know it. So getting a lot of that information there. There was some swarming around about an incident that happened at one of Prince's parties. So interesting enough, this stuff seems to just spread every which way. And I mentioned this in last week's weekly overview as well, that it just seemed like, anything associated with Diddy just was all over the place, right? And involved in many incidences and many situations with many people. Everybody, it felt as everyone knew really what was going on. It was not necessarily a secret. It was very much, it seemed like a publicized non-secret secret, right? And so of course, with all the allegations, it's going to be quite interesting to see how, again, that this all shapes out. But it is one thing that's a point of contention for sure, is that what you see as a consistent theme with a lot of these testimonial information that's provided is the fact that people watched and saw things and didn't do anything about it at the time. So you're hearing that a lot in the testimony and cross-examination given over this week for sure, and also aspects of it in the first week and last week as well. And so that's coming up to, I'm sure, a point of the fact of those who were charged with doing things, or just being a human being, sees things happening that is wrong, that is just unacceptable behavior, and therefore not stepping in to deal with that. So where was the fear factor there? We talk a lot about security and what they actually did, because it seemed like security really had a lot of involvement, all things alleged, of course, but a lot of involvement in moving things around and being ever so present, with Cassie and other victims as well. And that seems to be, obviously the running theme. And that's going to kind of bring us into part 5, which is the final part of this wrap-up review for week 3, which is going to be talking about Gene Deal, because he is someone who has shared a lot of information over quite a lengthy period of time about his experiences and things that he's been made aware of, and maybe things that, connect the dots to how he can see how certain things that are now being alleged after he had, ended his time with Diddy, how that can correlate to some of the things and experiences that he is aware of for during the time that he was there during his tenure. So we'll get into all of that as well, or more things about that they'll be covered because of really what that part 5 has to do with. But if you've been watching and following for the last couple of years or so in particular, definitely since the Cassie's lawsuit had dropped, you will have seen Deal probably speak several times, give several interviews about his experiences and his thoughts associated with the trial. And so, it's going to be interesting to see how that all pans out as well. And that's one thing that's definitely, I said, was a running thing for this week. But knowing that Prince's security was like, no, we're not having none of that, and jumped right on in and diffused that situation amongst people who would have necessarily been probably charged with not stopping it at all. And it took Prince's, people say, no, we don't do that. And I never really got, taking Prince to be that type of person anyways. Never seemed to be that kind of a person. So I'm pretty sure to see that was devastating. And if you watch Purple Rain, which was really kind of a take on similarities of what his family life was, and if you haven't watched it, I mean, you definitely are missing out. You need to watch. It's a great movie. It's one of the best movies of all time, in my opinion. But it does speak about, abusive nature between the parents that was depicted in the movie. And so I can only imagine him, and the many stories and the many examples of things that they would have seen in time, and then to turn around and see something or be aware of something like this happening when he himself had been touched by it as well, all things alleged, of course, during his time of growing up, and things that he may have seen. Because wrong is wrong. I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of times, what we say about bullies, you stop them in their tracks. You don't allow them to continue to keep moving forward, because a bully typically will continue going forward. They will do as much as they are allowed to do. So you've got to stop them in their tracks. You've got to be able to step up and say, look, wrong is wrong, and we're not doing this, irregardless. Because it's quite interesting that you see a lot of the atrocities happen towards the women, but you don't hear much about atrocities going towards the men. I wonder what that's about. So it's one of these things that, I mean, is it going to change the needle? Is it going to turn things? Are people going to, see things in a different light? Is society going to become a much more kinder, empathetic space, when dealing with these types of things, and how we deal and treat one another? And are we all considering each other an enemy to ourselves, to where we cannot have a helping hand, or cannot, look at a situation for what it is and be able to address it and, put a stop to it, especially when the power of hand more or less hands over to you more than the one that's being attacked at the time. All things alleged, of course, but we'll see how this all wraps up. Like I said, a lot of people have their own thoughts about the situation and their sides and how they feel about it, but it's just interesting, because one of the things that most people will ask, hey, if for those who may not, feel like this is, is such a big deal, or whatever the case may be, they may say, well, what is this happening to your mother or your sister or your whoever, insert a person, or you? Would you feel so much the same way with some of the things that were depicted, you feel different? I know there's probably, as as always, no one's perfect. There's no perfect human being. People do make mistakes. People do make bad decisions. People make bad choices. Sometimes it's not about sometimes the choices. Sometimes it can be about the intention behind the choices, especially when people find themselves in positions where they are victimized. Because at the end of the day, we do have to remember that the person that is to blame and the fault is the person who perpetrated the victimization. So we'll see how that all pans out. And yeah, I mean, it's just, I think we're still not hit the deepness of this case quite yet. I think we're still not necessarily just scraping the surface. We're kind of digging in a little bit more, but I feel like there's something else that's more going to drop here. So I don't know if you're thinking of like that, let me know, or if you think that this is probably the best they've got. But again, as we all should know, we're not here doing the trial, right? We're not the lawyers, we're not the attorneys, we're not part of the prosecution, defense, or anything of that nature. So we don't know what they have in store. We don't know what from week to week is going to happen. But what I definitely see happening, which is probably needs to happen, is people have a great understanding, especially the juror, obviously, because the jurors are the ones that are going to be rendering their decision and a verdict, to really understand and all facets as much as they possibly can in the time frame given in order to share those things about Diddy and what has been alleged around him, including individuals who may have been a part of it too. And I feel like co-conspirators is going to start coming up here probably really soon, if not, within the next couple of weeks or so, I'm sure, in short order at some point in time, because that has been something that has been a conversation for quite some time. And a lot of individuals who find themselves in these types of situations, if they are found guilty, there are usually other people who fall along the wayside as well. Because somebody had to help them put this stuff together, and they weren't doing this by themselves. So yeah, we'll just see if Diddy will fall into the same situation or not. So definitely would love to know your thoughts though down below. So definitely leave them respectfully down in the comment section. Again, of course, it's a very sensitive nature. So definitely I appreciate so much when you have those really thoughtful conversation and responses to the things that are going on. And it's okay if you don't necessarily agree with someone else, but just being respectful of each other is something that's so much appreciated. And how we all get to a better place in understanding one another. And, sometimes, we can make changes with our thought process about certain things. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people who have witnessed a lot of things that become desensitized to certain things that should not be desensitized to. And just because something doesn't seem like it's a bad thing to you, or just because something doesn't seem like it's a heartfelt situation to you, doesn't mean that it isn't. It doesn't change what it is. A pig is a pig is a pig. No matter if you put a lipstick on it, or a dress on it, or a wig on it, it's still a pig. So that goes to all things. So we'll have to see how this all, again, shapes up. It's not looking really good, I'll tell you that. The testimony, the things that have been shared, things that have been said, what has been, talked about as far as the emotion that's been immuted in these testimonial days, it's been pretty shocking. It's been interesting, to just feel the tension that I'm sure just mounts each time somebody is walking down that what feels like probably a plank to the actual stand in order to give their testimony, and imagining the amount of embarrassment and shame and horrificness of that situation. I'm sure so many of them who have allegations would prefer to not have to say anything at all, in fear of retaliation or in fear of people just not believing them. And so, yeah, we'll just have to see how it goes. And yeah, I'm going to continue watching myself. I know you probably will be too if you're interested in it. So yeah, definitely make sure you have your all notification bell on, because we do have one last part, which is part 5. We're going to be talking about Gene Deal and apparently a verbal altercation that may have turned physical on the outside of the courthouse. And so, as if we thought that the shenanigans and antics only surmised itself inside of the court, apparently it found its way outside as well. So with that, I am going to bid you adieu for this video. Definitely, if you are new here, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, be part of the family. I would so love to have you. And naturally, if you are already part of the family, I thank you so much for your continued viewing and listening support. And so with that, I will see you here in a couple of hours. So go ahead and yeah, make sure you come on back. Talk to you later. Bye.